Happy Wednesday, everyone. You're watching CBC News BC. I'm Yasmin Ghanea here in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. Let's get to your top stories. We begin with developing news. A negotiator in the Canada Post labor dispute says the Canadian Union of Postal Workers is proposing a 2-week pause on a potential strike set to begin this Friday as it reviews the latest offer from the Postal Service. Among other things, that offer proposes a 13.59% wage increase over 4 years and 6 personal days to be locked into the next collective agreement. CBC News has reached out to Canada Post to see if they'll agree to the pause. And meanwhile, BC's main outpatient lab services provider says it has reached a deal with the union representing about 1,200 striking workers across the province. LifeLab says it has reached a 3-year deal with the BC General Employees Union. Workers had been conducting job action since February, rotating temporary closures at different lab locations. The details of the deal have not been made public. The union has previously said that it was calling for increased wages and benefits to cover the high cost of living. Police say the suspect in a stranger attack on Vancouver's seawall last month has been released. 34-year-old Peter Hans Nongu was arrested and charged with assault causing bodily harm in connection with the incident in Cole Harbour in April. News of the arrest came after a Toronto woman shared details of the violent attack on TikTok. Police say the suspect was granted bail and released from police custody on April 23rd, but was transferred to a secure medical facility where he was under medical supervision. Police say he was released from there yesterday and will be living under house arrest in Vancouver. Well, construction is underway on 2 non-market housing developments in Burnaby. The project is in partnership with Metro Vancouver, the province, BC Housing, and the city of Burnaby. Metro Vancouver says it's building around 300 units for people of different ages, abilities, and income levels. Burnaby's mayor says this is an important step in addressing the housing crisis in the region.
Our goal was to leave, and it still is, to leave no stone unturned, as we aggressively pursued projects that would deliver vital units of non-market housing across our community. Today's groundbreaking event is another sign that the city's unique approach to building non-market housing is paying off for residents.
Both buildings will include dozens of new childcare spaces. Construction is set to be finished in 2027. Well, many of us yell answers at the TV when Jeopardy is on, but only a very few number of people actually make it onto the iconic quiz show. One of those people is UBC graduate Brendan Liao. He told the Early Edition this morning it's long been a dream to appear on the show.
An appreciation for learning, but also a recognition that, like, wow, this is kind of a crazy thing to do, and I'm pretty proud of myself for even just getting on this stage, because I think a lot of people try and don't make it. So yeah, just I guess a newfound sense of confidence, I guess, in myself, which is nice.
The show taped earlier this year and his episode aired last night. He won, so he'll be on again tonight. Congratulations. Liao is a self-proclaimed stay-at-home son. He says he's waiting to find out if he's going to be accepted into law school next year. And those are your top stories right now. I'm Yasmin Ghanea. Stay with us. BC Today with Michelle Elliott is up next.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Another disturbing stranger attack in Vancouver. A woman was robbed and sexually assaulted in a bathroom at Stanley Park. We'll hear from the VPD and talk to the Battered Women's Support Services Society. And let us know what more needs to be done to prevent these attacks and what supports do victims of sexual violence need. After 12:30, the ongoing trade war appears to be giving a boost to BC's farmers markets. What's needed to support their expansion? I'm Michelle Elliott. Welcome to BC Today. Oh, first, a warning now for our audiences. This next story includes details of sexual assault, and this may affect viewers and listeners who have experienced sexual violence or know someone who has. So please do take care or join us later. Vancouver police say a man has been arrested and charged with multiple offenses after a woman was attacked and sexually assaulted by a stranger in a Stanley Park bathroom on Monday. Officers say a witness saw a man enter a women's changing room near the second beach pool. 35-year-old Hartley Ronald Duckhorn is charged with assault by choking, sexual assault with a weapon, robbery, and unlawful confinement. Vancouver Police Sergeant Steve Addison speaks for Vancouver Police on this case.
Witness had seen the person hanging around for a bit and decided to call us after seeing him go into the women's washroom or changing room area. At the time, the witness didn't know that there was anybody in the washroom, but felt it was concerning enough behavior to give us a call. So our officers responded, and our officers arrived a short time later. When they arrived on scene, they located a woman who informed them that inside that washroom she'd been attacked by a stranger and very seriously assaulted. She'd been robbed, threatened, choked, sexually assaulted with a weapon, and the suspect, the person who did this to her, had left. Fortunately, he was still in the area. We were able to obtain valuable information that allowed our officers to quickly arrest him before he left the area. He was taken into custody and is since in jail.
That's Vancouver Police Sergeant Steve Addison. Now, meanwhile, police say the suspect in another stranger attack on Vancouver's seawall last month has been released. As you heard in the news, in that case, a 34-year-old man was arrested and charged with assault causing bodily harm. And news of that arrest came after a Toronto woman shared details of the violent attack on TikTok. Police say the suspect was granted bail and released from custody April 23rd, but was transferred to a secure medical facility where he was under medical supervision. And police say he was released from there yesterday and will be living under house arrest in Vancouver. Okay, we're discussing the issue of public safety now. What more do you think needs to be done to address public safety? And in the case of sexual violence, what supports do victims need? You can call us 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, or you can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. If you can email bctoday@cbc.ca if you like. As well, here's another number for you. If you need help as a victim of assault, you can call the Crisis Support Line. That is 1-855-687-1868. And you can also call or text Victim Link BC at 1-800-563-0808. Joining me now is Angela Marie MacDougall. She's the Executive Director of the Battered Women's Support Services Society. She's been good enough to come into studio. Hello.
Hi, Michelle.
Thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you.
This case, I just went through two cases there,
Right.
highly disturbing. And when you think about just this week, sexual assault in a washroom,
Yes.
at a beach. I can't imagine the trauma, emotionally, physically,
Right.
that someone goes through.
Yeah, it's horrible. I mean, I'm just so concerned, of course, for the victim in this case and the victims in the other cases that have been so public, and hoping that she gets the support that she needs and that's going to be helpful for her. Because this is horrible to imagine this kind of sexualized violence to happen, when you're trying to enjoy yourself at the park.
Yeah. And when you think about those supports, what are the supports that are needed?
Right. Well, I mean, I think we have supports in a broad sense, and that there are crisis services sexual assault services, crisis centers, and you named the numbers on the top of the show. And that matters very much, that those services continue and they continue to be funded at levels that exceed, certainly, what the funding is currently, because we know that the demand far exceeds what the capacity is for so many organizations. And this is something that we continue to advocate for, certainly.
What has been the trajectory of funding for those supports in the face of increasing demand?
Well, there hasn't been increases necessarily to meet the demand. There have been increases, but they haven't necessarily been to meet the demand. And but we're working hard to really encourage the provincial and federal government, because now that we've got the new federal government, to advance the National Action Plan on Gender-Based Violence, which is at the moment, a 5-year project, but we want it to extend to 10 years. And then British Columbia has its own provincial plan that grows out of the national plan. So we want those plans to continue and to be funded at the levels of which we've been speaking about.
You know, we reached out to Vancouver Police
Yes.
for some numbers this morning, and so we received the statistics from Sergeant Steve Addison, who told us there were 8 sexual assaults this March in the area that includes the downtown core and Stanley Park, 20 in March of last year.
Right. Well, I guess what Steve Addison is highlighting is the numbers of stranger sexual assaults that we're seeing.
Right. He did say that, yes.
Which is rare, technically, but horrifying nevertheless. And it's something that we're socialized certainly for many women. You know, don't go out at night, don't go out alone, don't in the alley, like all of the messages that we get. And even I'm hearing for this victim that at the in the restroom at the pool, all of the victim blaming statements that have been said relating to her, and that's part of the bigger problem, I think, in that we have a lot of work to do, Michelle, to continue to address the roots of the problem, which is something that we're not really tackling that yet, and we need to do that more, certainly.
Definitely want to get to that, the roots of these problems. And I'm wondering too, we have this ongoing conversation now around public safety. Whether it is these stranger attacks or otherwise. There's been this ongoing discussion around public safety. Mayor Ken Sim has talked about it. Like, how do you place these incidents, or this what we know as this alleged incident now of sexual violence, sexual assault, in the context, the broader discussion around public safety that we've been having?
Definitely, and this is what we've been discussing about the public safety here in the British Columbia, but within Canada as well. Michelle, during the time of the COVID-19 lockdowns, we saw more assaults against women. There was a spike, and it's continued. And we haven't been able to catch up with that. When the public safety conversations are happening with the mayor or others, what is missing from that is the particular kinds of violence that are happening against women. We're not getting to that naming of that, and the reason why the potential reason why we've had these increases, we're not getting to that.
Why is it missing?
Because I think that there's a real caution maybe by government people to highlight gender as a part of a risk factor in the sense of violence, and that is a problem. And it's because we have to name things. We have to call them by their real names, and we have to deal with things in a real way in order to address them. So by not looking at this from a gender perspective, not recognizing that there is something troubling about those that have been attacked recently, but also over the last 5-6 years, is that we're not then going to be able to get at the problem at the root. And of course, I've attempted to speak with the mayor, and I've definitely spoken with the provincial government on this, and as well as the federal government. But we have a whole lot more work to do to address these root causes and to address them in a meaningful way.
You said attempted to speak to the mayor.
Yeah, well, it might not be a surprise to listeners that. Well, the gender issues aren't something that the current mayor and council or policy have really looked at in a major way. But we're going to keep trying to highlight those issues. And what we don't want is the politicization of the issues that we're seeing right now. It's a bit troubling to see how the politics of it are playing out. Because on one hand, we recognize that there's this problem with the way the criminal legal system works. But what's missing from that is just the broader, overarching reality of the amount of sexualized violence that's happening within all segments of society, including within members of the Vancouver Police Department, which the Office of the Police Complaints Commission has recently demonstrated, which has been reported by CBC.
And so, to be clear, have you been able to actually have a meeting with the mayor on
No.
this? No. Okay, so that's something that we can follow up on and try to seek some comment on that then.
Thank you.
We are taking your calls as well. Let us know, your thoughts around what more needs to be done to address the issue of public safety and prevent these attacks that we've been hearing about. You can give us a call. Let us know as well when it comes to specifically sexual violence, what supports are needed for victims. You can call us 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, or hit pound 690 on your cell phone. You can also email bctoday@cbc.ca. And do you think that gender violence has been missing in the broader conversation around public safety? What are your thoughts on that? Does it need to be more of a factor? Does more attention need to be paid to that aspect of that conversation? Love to hear from you. Again, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, and you can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. Our email is bctoday@cbc.ca. My guest, Angela Marie MacDougall, Executive Director of the Battered Women's Support Services Society. Now, you did talk about kind of the politics around this, the political debate, and a lot of that has been around, repeat offenders, and you talked about the criminal justice system. In this week's incident, the man who's been charged with assault and sexual assault with a weapon and robbery and unlawful confinement was charged as well in Surrey in 2020 and has a criminal record. So what are your thoughts on what needs to be done when it comes to repeat offenders?
Well, I mean, when somebody comes to the attention of the criminal legal system for behavior such as this, crimes such as this, obviously this is not their first time, typically. And that's the case that most sexualized violence doesn't come to the attention of the criminal legal system because it's either not reported to police or police discount it in different ways, and it doesn't make it the threshold in terms of getting through the criminal legal system in that way. So on one hand, there's the conversations about the need to, the revolving door and the, the sort of the way that the criminal legal system manages these incidents. And that's something that we should talk about. And there's all kinds of things to discuss in the sense of the rights of the accused, which are rights that we all want to be paying close attention to, because what we don't want is anybody to be wrongfully accused and what that means. So those rights are important, definitely. But sexualized violence within the criminal legal system there's so many challenges in having the criminal legal system and the way that it's set up right now to be effective in addressing this. And for every man such as this that's been alleged to have committed this crime and all of the others that we've heard of recently, there's so many more that have not made the threshold in terms of police or the courts. So we need a bigger intervention. And that's what the National Action Plan and the Provincial Action Plan to End Gender-Based Violence is seeking to do. This bigger plan that looks at prevention, looks at kind of social issues, looks at supports for survivors, looks at the legal system. And that is something that we definitely need to pursue and to have funded and to advance in a major way.
What is needed in terms of prevention?
Well, the biggest thing is about public awareness and information throughout all levels of our education system and beyond. That we need those kinds of policies and training and information that is about shifting the culture. And we've started that in a bunch of different ways, but it's not funded to the extent to which we need to do it. And that's a big part of it around the prevention. And then that needs to be sustained. It takes a while for change to happen, so we need to have a sustained action, which is why we want 10 years of sustained action. It's not sufficient to do one-off, projects that get funded in different ways that last maybe a year. Because in that way, we're literally, firing interventions at a moving target in that way, not to use that imagery necessarily, but we're not addressing it in a strategic way. But unfortunately, that's the way that policy is working right now. It's very much on a, yearly basis, 2 yearly basis. And this is what we're we're really advocating for that to change.
Okay, look at the long term, look at those root causes, and education as a means of preventing.
Well, yeah.
Prevention. Let's take a call here now. My guest, Marie MacDougall with the Battered Women's Support Services Society in Vancouver. Again, our numbers to call into the open line are 604-669-3733, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669. Pardon me, I did just say that 669-3733, or hit pound 690. I did want to put out some other numbers as well. The crisis support line is 1-855-687-1868. Or Victim Link BC, you can call or text 1-800-563-0808. Alexis is calling us now in South Surrey. Hi, Alexis. Thanks for calling.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for this very important topic. Just to get straight to the point, last year we, in my community of South Surrey, we were aware of an individual that was approaching multiple women, young girls, at all different times, and making them feel very uncomfortable. It actually, my daughter was in the park when some other girls approached her and said they needed a safe place to go, and they came to our house. And so that's where it started. And from that, within our community, we heard multiple occurrences of this individual. We had pictures, we had video, we even had people and families and parents aware of where this person was because it was being reported, and they would go and ask him to leave, put him on a bus, tell him not to come back. Of course, we were dealing with all different levels of police, being RCMP, and then the transition to the Surrey Police Service. We had to work so hard to just keep an eye on this guy and then realize that he was known to them. He was known in different jurisdictions, and he was just being moved around. Due to our communication and due to this community effort, speaking about it, having a group text, we were able to have one person come forward and share her terrifying experience of what he did to her. And from there, he was arrested. He was kept in jail and then had multiple hearings. But from what we understand now, and this is all reported in the Peace Arch News and a couple local smaller news agencies, which are so important for community, he is out now, but he is not allowed to come back to our community. We found his article in the Vancouver, a warning about him in the Vancouver newspaper, or I think it was the Sun, saying he was a dangerous offender. There was a warrant. He was known, I believe, in Saskatchewan. So now we have these individuals that are known, but with jurisdictional information sharing, there's not a lot that can be said, can be done until there's a public outcry. And I guess this also boils down to the fact of where our mental wellness support's being brought into place. And then at the end of the day, how can all these agencies speak to each other and not just move this problem around, but deal with the issue and deal with what ails this person? And specifically the person that was brave enough to bring forward her experience, she moved out of our community. She was traumatized. Yeah. And again, there was little support for her too. And so, I think we value community, but we also have to understand the funding is for the short amounts of time. It's not communicating to all the people that are on the ground. It's devastating and it's frustrating. And I guess my biggest message to that is, how are we going to stop the problems from just moving to community so people aren't surprised, but just grateful that their kids or their community members are not being hassled by somebody who is a known problem and is a known offender.
Well, Alexis, thank you. You've raised so many important points. Thank you very much for your call. Yeah, that issue of jurisdiction and communication there.
Well, Alexis, thank you for you and the advocacy of your community and wanting to, prioritize a community-based response in addressing this safety issue. And this is, actually what we encourage is these community-based interventions that then are thinking about mental wellness, that are thinking about public safety, from a community point of view, which is exactly what we've been discussing in terms of a national and provincial action plan on gender-based violence. And I know I'm going to keep saying this today because I think it's so important. And I'll share with you later, Michelle, we've laid out a roadmap for how we can address these issues. And it is also about empowering communities and community-based interventions that then can, really look at these issues and take action from the individual, but also systemically. Because what we have right now, unfortunately, is a patchwork idea in terms of how we're going to be addressing violence against women, gender-based violence specifically. And I'm highlighting this because we're talking about a very particular kind of violence that is being repeated by these individuals, but it's also a part of other places and spaces that we have that may not come to the attention necessarily of the criminal system. But it's something that needs to be addressed and that women are dealing with at work or, on the bus or in all the different places. So the planning and having a plan and working through that plan and funding that plan is really important. I'm hoping that we can move the public safety conversation in the context of this plan to address violence against women and gender-based violence.
It's a big plan. Okay, I'm going to break right now for our TV audience. You're going to see an ad break, and we'll tell you about some other news that's been happening in the province in Vancouver as well. But we're going to come back with Angela Marie MacDougall in 2 minutes, and I'm going to go to Jared, who's calling us from Victoria as well on this issue of prevention of sexual violence. So Jared, if you want to hold the line, please, I'd love to go to you in just 2 minutes from now. Right now, it is 12:27. You're with BC Today. Now, BC Premier David Eby has decided to scrap the controversial appointment of czar to look at improving conditions in Vancouver's downtown Eastside. Former Attorney General of Ontario, Michael Bryant, has been terminated, citing issues of transparency. BC Conservatives say the contract is worth $325,000. Amanda Burrows with First United in the downtown Eastside was on CBC's The Early Edition today with Stephen Quinn, and she is questioning why Bryant was chosen in the first place.
That $300,000 or the $100,000 or $50,000 for the 6 months goes a long way in this community, of course. What I like is that we hit reset. There was backlash. Let's pivot. Let's hit reset. I think what this situation, though, really does underscore that it's not just one person. It's not just one appointment to go back to the Premier. If we're talking about integrating services and an understanding of the community, these need to be community-convened, community-led solutions, and we have them ready to go. So it needs to be more collective.
But does this not, damage the trust that the Premier has to carry that out? I mean, this is somebody who got appointed, was doing the job, and nobody knew about it. Nobody knew that he was even hired. Nobody knew that the position existed.
Well, it certainly didn't help. We know that a process going forward needs to be far more transparent. And the $75,000 that was already invested for the 3 months, what this community deserves and the public deserves with all the criticism is just what work was done, what were some recommendations, what was collected, but a very clear pathway going forward that is more about the community coming together. I'd like to know there's a Supporting the Downtown Eastside provincial partnership plan that we all worked on a couple years ago. Where are we at with that? And so, again, this underscores that not just one person and one appointment is going to be the solution.
Coming back. You're with BC Today here on CBC, and we've been discussing the issue of public safety and sexual violence in light of a report this week. Vancouver police saying a man has been arrested and charged with multiple offenses after a woman was sexually assaulted by a stranger in a Stanley Park bathroom on Monday. We've been asking you what more needs to be done to address public safety, and when it comes to sexual violence, what supports do victims need? And we've been taking your calls along with Angela Marie MacDougall from the Battered Women's Support Services Society. Jared's been on the line in Victoria. Hi, Jared. Thanks so much for calling in.
Hi there. Thanks for taking my call. I don't necessarily have a perspective on the question at hand, but I think I have a question in turn, which is effectively just kind of looking for action items as an individual in the community, kind of wondering how I could get involved to help participate in preventing gender-based and sexual violence. And I think one key aspect of my question was kind of, since I'm not particularly active on social media, so kind of like that sort of raising awareness aspect isn't something I'm necessarily going to be super active in. Are there other kind of sort of places you direct me to for getting involved?
It's a very useful question. Thank you so much, Jared. Yeah, Angela Marie.
Well, I love the question and for the intention. And since you're in Victoria, Jared, there are a number of organizations that are in on the island that are doing amazing work. And for example, the Victoria Sexual Assault Center, they're so great. And I know they have volunteer programs, and as well as the Victoria Transition Health Society, I know that they have programs, volunteer programs, and others as well. I really encourage anybody around British Columbia, wherever you are, to get in touch with your local anti-violence organization, whether it's a sexual assault center or a transition house or an organization that's running a transition house, because that's a way to get involved, like on a community basis, but also to to do the work, part of the prevention work, and because it will take a community response, and it will take all of us caring about this. And I'm really encouraged by your intention, Jared. Thank you.
Yeah, spreading awareness, something that you touched on earlier.
Definitely.
The need for that. Jared, thank you so much for the call and for staying on the line. Angela Marie, great to see you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Angela Marie MacDougall is the Executive Director of the Battered Women's Support Services Society. It is 12:32 now. You're with BC Today here on CBC. We're live on Radio 1, CBC Television, as well as live streaming. You can catch us on YouTube or on CBC's News app. In our next half hour, we'll take your calls on what seems to be a boost for farmers markets in light of the ongoing trade war with the United States. We'll take your calls on that. Are you shopping more in order to buy BC, heading more to your local farmers market? We'll take your calls on that, along with the head of Vancouver Farmers Markets, coming up after this CBC News Update with Rob Zimmerman.
Good afternoon. LifeLab says it has reached a new 3-year contract with the union. About 1,200 BC GEU members have been on picket lines since February. Key issues included wages, benefits, and staffing shortages. The Canadian Union of Postal Workers says it has offered Canada Post a 2-week truce after receiving new offers ahead of a looming strike. Workers are set to walk off the job Friday, but a truce would delay job action. Canada Post has not yet accepted the union's offer. And Creston RCMP say a crash earlier this morning has left Highway 3 closed a kilometre east of Canyon Lister Road. Few details have been released, but police say it was a multiple vehicle crash and emergency crews will be on scene most of the day. There is no detour available. And now the forecast on the north coast, a mix of sun and cloud this afternoon with a high of 12, highs up to 17 with some sun and cloud in the piece. In the central interior, including Prince George, a mix of sun and cloud with a high of 13, highs to 16 with sunny breaks and a chance of thunderstorms in the Kootenays. In the southern interior, including Kelowna, a mix of sun and cloud with a high of 18. And for Metro Vancouver, Greater Victoria and the Fraser Valley, clearing this afternoon with highs around 19 degrees. That's your CBC News Update from Vancouver.
Thank you, Rob. That's Rob Zimmerman in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. And as you heard, more now on that looming second strike at Canada Post. The Canadian Union of Postal Workers has proposed a 2-week pause on that potential strike that was set to begin Friday. CUPW is reviewing the latest offer from Canada Post, and that's according to negotiator Jim Gallant. Canada Post made that offer this morning. Well, we talked about this yesterday, the impact of a potential second strike, and we got these emails. Bonnie wrote us from Nelson. Canada Post has been losing money, like many other service businesses, by all the Amazons of the world. But it is an essential service for folks and should be treated like that. Jeremy writes, I wonder if it would be feasible for Canada Post to charge more for letter mail. The cost of sending a letter is so little. Also, pricing letter mail by the distance. Why should it cost the same for me to send a letter from Victoria to Vancouver as from Victoria to St. John's? Judy suggests postal workers conduct wellness checks for seniors. And she writes, this service is available in some countries for a fee. I'd be happy to subscribe to something like this. My postie is so friendly and kind and always chats with me. It would be great to know that an extra person was watching out for me. And here's an email from Stephanie in Nanaimo. We are at a time now that we don't need daily mail delivery. Parcels, yes, as needed, but the old Daily Mail, no. Most of my correspondence is now online. No one sends birthday cards, etc. So how about just 2 or 3 times a week? It's a bit sad that people don't send birthday cards anymore, but there you go. Thank you very much for your emails. bctoday@cbc.ca, and we'll stay on top of those new developments in the potential strike by Canada Post workers set for this Friday. .36 now. You're with BC Today. I'm Michelle Elliott. Thanks so much for being with us. Well, British Columbians are going elbows up and they're carrying tote bags. Yes, all the way to their local farmers market too. With the ongoing trade tensions with the United States, those farmers markets may be getting a boost. CBC's Sophie Woodruff headed over to the Seashell Farmers Market this past weekend, and she spoke with some shoppers. She started, though, by talking to Tori Thacker, the market's general manager.
Why do you think it's been so busy this year?
I think part of it is the elbows up, buy Canadian movement, and I think a lot of people I've noticed are reprioritizing where they put their money.
I'm originally from Vancouver, but we just have a vacation place over here, so I brought some of my friends, and we're just coming along, just showing them the market, because it's one of my favorite activities to do. And yeah, it's just nice, cute. I got ducks for my friends, and then
are those little plush baby ducks?
They are. I know, they're so cute, right? And then I got some of the Jack Bandit sauce from, I think, just over there. So it's really nice.
And we've, with what's going on politically, with Trump tariffs, all that sort of thing, has that influenced you at all to focus more, double down on local?
I think, yeah, especially because I think even before this, I was definitely more of a local shopper, but I guess now it's like, oh, I gotta check, is this Canadian made? Where's this coming from? Because
Are you doing that?
Yes, I am. I'm definitely looking for, is this local? Because I want to support my community, especially in this time.
So my partner and I, Jimmy, came up with mycelium functional mushroom gummies, and we've been at the market here for about 5 years now. A lot more people. I think we've seen like a 30% increase in our sales, which April's typically pretty tough, and it's been awesome. So there's been a lot more traffic than we're used to.
I think it has been busier than normal, and I think that we're going to have a really big summer this year. I think people are really motivated to buy local. Our farm sales, roadside farm sales are up, and people are there all the time.
Those are some beautiful bouquets that were arranged right behind her there, too. We have some nice a bouquet arrangement of vegetables, in fact, right beside me here right now. Would love to hear from you on the open line. Are you doing more of your shopping at your local farmers market? And how can BC support their expansion? Love to hear from you. 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. You can also email bctoday@cbc.ca. And my guest is Laura Smit, the Executive Director of Vancouver's Farmers Markets. Hello.
Hi.
Those little hand-woven ducks were adorable.
They were so cute.
My goodness. I didn't know you could get that at a farmer's market.
Only at a farmer's market.
Exactly. Only at a farm with your tote bag.
That's right.
I was very proud of that joke. How is the season going?
It's been a really great start to the season. Here in Vancouver, we actually run farmers markets year-round, but we expand out as the spring opens up and as the summer does as well. This year, we actually expanded earlier rather than later, so we had more of our markets start up a little bit earlier.
Why was that?
Part of it is absolutely the demand from our small local businesses looking for more opportunities to connect directly with their shopper. We're hearing from communities that they want to have their farmers markets in their neighborhoods as soon as possible. And so we stretched it out a little bit. West End and Mount Pleasant opened earlier, and Trout Lake actually was open already in April and has never seen as many people walking through on an April rainy day as they did this year.
That, to me, is the OG of farmers markets, I feel like.
It is the OG. It's probably our most notorious territory as we
Yeah.
started actually in 1995. So we're 30 years now and it's going strong.
Oh my gosh, yes, I've made many visits to Trout Lake, but also I do go to my local one in Burnaby as well. Can you actually make the link to between this appetite for shopping at farmers markets, the increased demand you're talking about with the trade war, the tariffs coming from the States?
Yeah, I mean, do we have the absolute hard direct survey Ipsos data? Maybe not. But do we know our footfall? Absolutely. So we've seen a 30% increase in footfall at markets at this time of the year, which is huge. And when we do talk to our vendors, we're hearing from them that they're needing to answer a few more questions than they are used to. So they're seeing different and new faces than they've seen previously. And that honestly is just a beautiful thing to hear because it's spreading that awareness of what is available in our province at this time of the year and beyond.
Yes, and when you say footfall, that's kind of traffic.
Yes,
Yeah.
number of visitors.
It's interesting. We talked about the adorable little ducks, but like when you think about it, can you actually realistically shop for the things that you need? I love the novelty items. I get my honey from the farmer's market, but realistically, can people do their regular shopping at a farmer's market?
Yeah, so here in Vancouver, we very intentionally curate our markets so that they are a bit of a one-stop shop. So if you did want to make the farmer's market your weekly grocery visit, you could. You could go and you could get your fruits and your vegetables, your bread, your cheese, your eggs, your meats, all those different pieces. It's really intentional on our part to have that availability and variety for folks to be able to do.
I'm looking for some some emails right now too on farmers markets. I'll put out the email. It's bctoday@cbc.ca, and you can call into 1-800-825-5950 604-669-3733. Love to hear from you. Are you doing more shopping at your local farmers market, or have you always turned to your farmers market? And what can be done to help support them and to expand their presence in BC? And so you've made that conscious effort to ensure it's kind of a one-stop shop. You can get your day-to-day needs there. What efforts are being made more broadly to that? Like, do you see that as a kind of priority for farmers markets?
So I think so. We're a part of the Provincial Association of Farmers Markets, and a lot of that is putting producer direct markets as a priority, really increasing the farms that are available at farmers markets and trying to make those connections and show that it is in fact viable to be a small farm selling directly to consumers and for folks to be able to come to market and get what they need. It is always a building priority, but when things like trade tariffs come up or when things like flooding and fires came up or COVID, you think about all those different pieces. We really do think about our local food security, and people are starting to think about where is my food coming from and can I get that from within my region? How can I support?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. When in the wake of those floods and those fires, you certainly think of the impact on the farmers and what that means, not just for them, but for the next growing season. And let's put out the numbers once again, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. I wanted to ask you, is it feasible for these local farmers to sell to grocery stores?
Yeah, so a number of the farms who do come to our farmers markets also sell to local grocery stores because as time has progressed, folks have been asking their local retailers to have local products
Again, in
their
response
stores.
to demand.
Partly in response to demand. That does open up some avenues for the farms to be able to get into those spaces. What we find, though, is that the seasonality of products can make it challenging for a farmer to have a longer contract and fulfill strawberry demand in February, for example.
Right.
So the larger
not gonna
retailers
happen.
aren't necessarily going to understand that in a way that our local farmers market attendees are like, yeah, I'm not going to get my fresh strawberries in April, but I could get frozen ones because I know that someone's got it stuck in a cooler in the back.
Yes, that's very true. So what then, when we want to support to the expansion of farmers markets and farms and that kind of sustainability and food security issue, like what needs to be done then?
There are so many different avenues that can help support local in all kinds of different ways. I think something that's been really encouraging that we've seen happen on a provincial basis, I know this is a provincial show, is the Ministry of Health actually supports a nutrition coupon program, and that has provided access to folks, seniors, newcomers, folks, expectant parents, to be able to come into farmers markets and get farmers market products. Those dollars also go directly to our farmers. So when we as a society are showing that local matters, connecting matters, nutritious food matters, and in a sense, it's a subsidy, in that the province is saying, yes, actually, we value this, and it's supporting families and it's supporting farms. And so if there are little ways that it says, hey, we can do this from a health basis, how can we do this from an economic basis? If we're talking about it from a tariff standpoint, what are the ways that this province could really support and invest in those small local community economic development initiatives that really encourage that local spending?
Yes, we've done many stories on that nutritional coupon program and certainly have heard about the uptake and interest in it. I should not ignore this beautiful bouquet of produce right beside you. What do we have here?
Yeah, so, just a bit of a sampling of what is available at farmers markets in the Lower Mainland right now. This beautiful bouquet is 100% edible.
Yes.
while also being beautiful.
I was going to ask about a couple things, but I see the kale.
Yep. So kale on stand. We've got chives here and chive flowers. You can actually take those flowers and sprinkle them in your salsa or sprinkling them on top of your soup. My kids just like to eat them. It's like if you tell them you can eat a flower out of the garden, they'll pop them in their mouths.
I'm allowed. What?
Yeah. Similarly, I think I have up here some kale flowers. My kids call them kale snacks.
Yeah.
And they're sweeter than kale is. They're kind of like a broccoli. And that's the kind of thing that's available. I know we were all looking for our Canadian broccoli and cauliflower and carrots in January and February. And kale flowers are one of the ways that shows up in markets now, as we're looking forward to broccolini and things like that as well.
Yes, exactly. It very, very much looks like it.
Yes.
Absolutely. And you've got some bell peppers as well?
Yeah. So, something that we don't necessarily think about the season is that you would actually be able to find your peppers or your cucumbers or your tomatoes. But we do have a number of greenhouse growers who are in and around the Lower Mainland. So if you do come to your local farmers market, you will still be able to find some tomatoes, your peppers, your cucumbers, all that kind of stuff that you want to put on your table.
Any advice? I know we have Brian Minter here every couple of weeks, and he's been saying, well, last weekend was not a planting weekend, but people get excited, and they're excited to get their cucumbers and all of that. And any advice for people who want to grow their own?
Admittedly, I do leave most of that to the farmers. Part of the reason that I organize farmers markets is so that I don't necessarily have to do it all myself.
Touché.
I'll leave it to Brian Minter.
Most of us do.
Yeah.
We have an email here from Diana in North Vancouver. I grew up going to farmers markets in Costa Rica. Then had the opportunity to live in France and Germany and travel in some European countries where farmers markets are very common and affordable. I lived in Ottawa for many years. I used to go to the Byward Market. It was an awesome experience, but ever since the pandemic happened, unfortunately, buying at farmers markets is too expensive. Okay, and Diana writes, I miss the farmers markets. Okay, that question of cost and things are expensive there.
Yeah, I know. It's really challenging. It's definitely something that we encounter a lot is, how accessible are farmers markets? What is the cost of farmers market? You might go in and have a bit of sticker shock. I think we've been comparing notes with folks across the globe, actually. So it's interesting that she mentioned farmers markets worldwide. And what we have noticed, actually, is that those sorts of products, organic apples to organic apples, free range eggs to free range eggs, those greenhouse peppers to greenhouse peppers, those prices generally stay in step or stable in comparison to retailers. But sometimes you'll find the other, your retailers will do this sort of like roller coaster ride. I know we're all kind of going to the grocery store and wondering how much is kale going to cost this week as compared to the next one. So we have seen kind of a stable rise instead of that roller coaster rise in prices. And actually, as the roller coaster is going up on retailers, I think that we're starting to see even that closing of that gap. If you have found that affordability is not there for you, I would encourage her to come back again and take another peek. If she does like to come to the farmers market for the experience, come poke around a few different stalls, and people will have different price points as well. So, if you're looking for an organic product, you're going to pay a higher price point. You won't pay as much as you will in your local Whole Foods. But if you're looking for just fresh, healthy food that's grown local to home, you can usually find a vendor who will offer something at a competitive price.
When you're at a farmer's market as well, like I've seen, different farms with similar products. Like, do they try to keep it competitive amongst each other when it comes to pricing?
We don't really get too involved in that. My understanding is folks will set their prices compared to what they need to do. So Yeah, you'll have to just poke around the
Yeah.
different stalls and see what the different prices
I know.
are. It's
I'm comparing
hunt.
what I-
It's a bit of a journey as you weave through the stalls and figure out the best price on garlic.
Exactly. Tomatoes.
Yeah.
We have an email from Shauna who writes, you can find almost anything at the wonderful Kamloops Farmers Market. How lucky are we to live in BC? From apples to watermelons, everything grows here. They even used to grow commercial pineapples in Kamloops back in the 70s. Wow, watermelon. Okay, thank you very much for that, Shauna. And a shout out to the Kamloops Farmers Markets there. And Kathy writes us with a question. Is it a safe assumption that all the vendors at farmers markets have grown or made the products they're selling?
Yeah, so at Vancouver Farmers Markets, it's 100%. We are a completely producer direct markets. And the BC Farmers Market Association, if you look for an association with that, that will also be the same. You can kind of ask around when you go to different markets and find out if that's the mandate that they're asking for. But Vancouver Farmers Markets, any one of our markets, we're eatlocal.org. You can look on our website and find a market that is a producer direct market.
Okay, it is an interesting question. And so it's maybe something you want to ask depending on where you are. And eatlocal.org was the website?
Eatlocal.org.
Eatlocal.org. That's where you can check. Okay, great question. I think that's something you do kind of assume, but it's good to know that you perhaps need to ask and that you can ask. Our email again is bctoday@cbc.ca. And our phone numbers, if you want to call in and let us know if you have been visiting your local farmers market. And do you have any thoughts as to how we can support their expansion in BC? 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, and you can hit pound 690 on your cell phone as well. Just do that, and that'll be easy for you. We have about 3 or 4 minutes left in this segment here, and I'm sure that when all the talk around the trade war and all of that came up, conversations around food security has been more prevalent among you and your members over at the Vancouver Farmers Markets. And I remember we had on from UBC one of the researchers behind the website Canada Food Flows, and so they had found that I'm looking for the figure here, about 81% of spinach, 70% of lettuce, 31% of tomatoes, 75% of the onions we eat here in BC were imported from the United States. What's needed to counter that?
Oh, I think, policy changes on a really broad level, but we can still on a day-to-day basis demonstrate by going to the farmer's market and buying those things from our farmers that there is local demand for it too. Honestly, that's sort of like top-down and bottom-up approach just to be able to meet in the middle and make sure that we do have that local food security and we're not sending all of our best products on an export basis, but actually eating them here at home.
Do you find this just within this, I'm sorry to keep bringing up the trade war, but we've also been hearing that, yes, BC is also looking to be more self-sustaining. Like, is that also happening in the food industry?
I mean, I'd say so. We're interested in building a strong local economy. Our local farms are interested in building farms that are sustainable in the long run and making really environmentally thoughtful choices and making economically thoughtful choices. So really building up that future and seeing that new generation of farmers coming in also is a really important part of seeing the next chapter.
That's a great point. Is there enough of that new generation of farmers coming on?
This is a season where we're really paying attention to that. There are a lot of farmers who are going to be aging out and retiring, and they're looking at transitioning. And so, on a provincial level, there is a lot of work being done. There's an organization, Young Agrarians, that's doing a lot of work, BC Land Trust, different groups that are trying to make sure that that sort of exchange of land and knowledge is being passed down to the next generation. It might not be the child of the farmer. It might be somebody who's actually stepping into farming for the very first time.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So interesting to be watching that then. Oliver is joining us from Williams Lake. Hi, Oliver.
Hey, how's it going?
Really well. Yeah. Your thoughts on buying local?
I just wanted to chime in and mention that one thing that helps a lot is to make sure that you're eating in season, and that's the best way to support local. I think too, to make sure to eat what's actually readily available instead of expecting things that are not.
Yeah, like strawberries off season. Yeah, so adjusting your diet then for what's available locally.
100%. Yeah, it also makes it a bit cheaper for you,
Sure.
and it's healthier.
And you do this yourself, Oliver?
I was going to say, I'm curious to hear what you're eating right now.
What's your meal plan?
Oh, I try my best to do that for sure. So simply put, in the wintertime, I definitely crave more things that are around, like root vegetables, as opposed to leafy greens and things like that. And then when spring pops up, I'm definitely more into the sprouts and that type of edibles at that time of year. So it just kind of listen to your body when you walk into the store.
That's very cool, Oliver. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you too. Have a good day.
You too. Great advice.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, here in the Lower Mainland, we're a little bit lucky in that we've got milder temperatures than they have in Williams Lake. So we do actually see leafy greens even at farmers markets in the winter months. But honestly, following the seasons is a great way to stay in touch and be able to eat some delicious food that you might not have otherwise tasted.
That used to be much more of a conversation, I feel like, eating in season. And I wonder if that's gone by the wayside a little bit. I'm not sure.
Doing your soups and your stews in the wintertime and kind of getting into those spring salads as April and May opens up, like doing that kind of, getting really excited about how delicious the tomatoes are going to taste once they come around in August, September. It makes it joyful too.
They are so tasty. Oh my goodness, in the summer. Laura, and so what can people expect when they head over to a farmer's market in Vancouver then?
Yeah, so we have 7 markets that are going to be opening this summer on weekends, midweek as well. We've got 5 of them already open on the weekends, so head out if you want to get out Saturdays and Sundays. We're going to be running the downtown farmers market just here on the downtown peninsula, Quitlock Square. So that opens June 4th at 2 o'clock. I'm really excited. We're doing a collaboration with Indigenous Tourism BC to celebrate Indigenous History Month. So come on out and celebrate that. And we're crossing our fingers a little bit for our Falls Creek Farmers Market location. We had an 11th hour delay in our permits, but working really hard to get through that delay and open it up in July. So lots of stuff on the go, lots of products around the city. Honestly, we just invite people to explore, get out to a different neighborhood, or just really come regularly and support your local businesses, your local farmers, and make sure that we've got a strong local economy and eat some delicious food.
There you go. You are busy. Oh my goodness. Laura, great to have you. Thanks for taking some time with us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All the best to you. Laura Smit, Executive Director of Vancouver Farmers Markets. And yes, you can email us as well. Let us know your thoughts on farmers markets. Juliet Simon emails us, in Saanich and Southern Vancouver Island, we're really fortunate to have many opportunities to buy local produce, free-range eggs, and so on. And I'm happy to pay the price my farmers ask for the health benefits I gain. Juliet, thank you very much for that. Again, BC Today at cbc.ca.